I'm Sam Warburton, and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're 3 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. This week we look back at Friday night's harem scarum match against Gloucester, where we relinquished the Rifles Cup for the first time in a good while. The Premiership Rugby marketeers would have wetted themselves over the 85-point primetime spectacle, but what did we think of the game? We continue to use listener summaries and post-match sound bites to help us out and provide context. We also look forward to the next game against Bath, and then finish off with an old favourite, What Gets My Goat? We have at least 4, but I promise to keep Miles's language on the clean side. I'm Pete, and I'm joined by the aforementioned Miles and, well, actually no one else, as Lee is in Turkey for a cheeky beer and a bit of rugby banter. Miles, it is a shame Lee isn't here, but he did send us a photo of him earlier on, didn't he?
Hang on a minute. So, you what? Lee is either a turkey, he's eating turkey, or he's on holiday in Turkey, but we're not. Apparently, it's the latter, is it?
Well, I think most people would say all 3, but
absolutely.
Unfortunately, he is.
Unfortunately, mate. So, first big West Country home of the game of the season, and Lee is missing in action.
Although we've got to say, given the weather tonight, and
we wish we were there too. I fully agree.
It's not a bad strategic
Anyway,
move.
Show must go on. We cannot disappoint fans, so you and I will just try and struggle on through this analysis ourselves, shall we?
And to give Lee a tiny bit of credit, he did send us a photo, as I said, of him wearing his hoops.
Yeah, good lad.
But it was 34.
Abroad.
Yeah, but it was 34 degrees, and I was a bit concerned about the massive sweat patches under his arms. So
he's probably wearing his Budgie Smugglers and just his hoops t-shirt, was he?
It was just a kind of top half photo, so who knows what was underneath. But anyway, let's crack on. And of course, before we crack on, actually, we just need to again do a massive shout out to the Bristol Bear Factory tap room for their regular Sunday night hospitality. And tonight, Miles, we are trying something different. Do you want to talk us through our pint?
So we are trying a pint of Destination Mars, which is a sort of US session IPA, which is 4.2%, and it's absolutely bloody lovely.
It is.
So a nice pint from our fine host, Lewis, who's the assistant manager here. We thank him very much, tap room, yeah.
Yeah, it's right on the edge of the session ale parameters, I'd say, for a Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday night.
It's very tasty, so cheers. But anyway, as is the way, we need to start thinking about Friday's game. And I think the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to have a quick listen to Pat's post-match soundbite. And of course, we have to remember that Pat has to do this pretty much straight after the game. And it was a very, very harem scarum game. It was a very, very close and exciting finish. A lot of adrenaline flying around. But I just thought it'd be interesting for us to start by listening to what Pat had to say, maybe have a little comment on it, and then we're going to move on to our normal regular feature where we're going to hear from some of the listeners who very kindly again submitted their short, sharp summaries. And the first time since asking, we actually do have a voice note from one of the fans, and we're going to play that at the end as well. So here we go. Here's what Pat said.
Well, obviously we're disappointed, to lose at home first up, But we gave away a few. We gave a good head start. We tried to claw it back, and we probably made a few too many errors to get there. We clawed out, got to the end there, and we had a chance at the end. And we probably, fair. But first and foremost, I want to say fair play to Gloucester and to George. I thought it was a great game, and it was good to see them play that way as well. But no, we are disappointed.
You got off to a fantastic start, but I guess it's always going to be difficult, it's particularly when you lose 2 players almost at the same time. Yeah, there were a few cards for both teams, but for us, we probably there's probably I think there's an intercept, a lucky bounce, there's a couple of things there, but we'll bounce back from this. We've got Bath next, and we'll regroup. We'll go through and come back better. But the main thing now, while it was a good game for the neutral. We're pretty disappointed that we gave away too many tries and soft tries. And how did you see the scrum? We saw Ellis Genge cutting quite a frustrated figure in that.
there's some challenges there, but we'll go through the process. I think you got we'll have a look through all of the things, and and just go through and have a look at it. He was frustrated, but at the end of the day, this is not the place to probably go through it. We'll sort it out with the officials.
Okay. So I mean, we have a lot of respect for Pat. It's he is a renowned international coach. I don't know about you. I just thought it wasn't the greatest post-match interview he's ever done. I'm not sure if I was a neutral and I listened to that, I'd be quite sure how he sort of felt the game went. I don't know what you think.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, delivering an immediate post-match analysis when you've just lost on the sort of 80th minute is challenging in itself. But I mean, I would have thought, you're right, a little bit of in-depth analysis, perhaps for the TV sort of pundits, etc., at interview. He's absolutely right. They'll analyse it on Monday and go through the players' stats and where the mistakes were for the players. But a little bit sort of shortcomings in delivering for fans, really, what was the outcome and why we lost, potentially.
We'll give him some credit. I mean, he didn't use as many cliches as our mate Bernard. He did do. We'll have to look at the process, but I think that's a pretty standard. But anyway, I mean, it's just interesting. It isn't easy to do it. No, of course it's straight after the game, and of course, he wants to keep a lot of stuff in house as well for the analysis. But
absolutely.
Luckily for us, though, we give it a kind of 24 hours, don't we? And then we go and ask the listeners. And of course, they've had a little bit more time to digest it and maybe watch the rerun.
Calm down a bit, potentially.
So again, I put out a short, sharp summaries clarion call, and I was quite pleased this week to find out a few new people came on. And actually, quite excitingly, we had our first opposition fan.
Oh, not an opposition acrostic. Have we?
No.
They're
not that good. They haven't got into it. But it was actually an opposition. It was a fellow podcaster actually. But not even a Gloucester fan. It was one of the guys from the Rolling Mall pod, Elliot, who tweets us a view from LE2. He jumped straight into the short shot summaries. Right. I mean, the guy, what fantastic, getting involved.
He had nothing to do on a Friday night, but watch Bristol Gloucester.
So anyway, I thought we ought to start with Elliot. And again, we take the mick a little bit, but actually really appreciate the interaction.
Yeah, of course.
So this is what Elliot said. I mean, he didn't say much, but he said, great game for the neutral. Sadly, not so much for your boys. Great attacking work from Bristol. Defence and discipline, not so much.
Yeah, so that's a good analysis.
It was short, it was sharp, and it was a summary.
Yeah.
And then we also got another contribution from, he's not a completely an opposition fan. It's actually somebody who is now a Bristol and a Connacht. He's a Connacht fan who's also a self-proclaimed Bristol fan as well. It's Iana who tweets us at Iana JPEG. And he is a regular contributor to us, which is great. So we really appreciate that. And I think he's a photographer, hence his little underscore JPEG handle. So he said, long-time listener, first-time summary person. So here goes. Defence mattered too. This isn't Super Rugby. Love from Connacht. And then in brackets, the Irish Bristol. So cheers for that. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point he makes there. And then, of course, we had a few others. So I had Ben, new contributor. Ben at Ben_H90, spirited fight back, but gave herself too much to do. Discipline and defence has to be better. However, great entertainment for a Sunday night. We had Bear Over the Bridge, who is at Bear Over the Bridge. We always seem to get on the ref's wrong side. It's not just discipline, it's being savvy and smart. Think locks went against us, bounce of ball, close odd calls, etc. But we need to be well enough in control so that those sorts of things don't matter. Great atmosphere. We also had Mark Hutton, at Mark Hutton 1980. Penalty count too high, too many errors and inaccuracies. On the plus side, we fought back into it with some scintillating attacking rugby. If a couple of passes had gone to hand, then the scoreline would have been different.
Yeah, fair play.
We also had Claire, which is at Claire 368384146.
That's a long number.
Yeah, it's a very long handle. She said, post-match frolics, which I was getting excited. And then she said, loved the sports bar last night after the game. Much better than the concourse. Great live music.
We should have gone there. Okay.
I know. A decent selection of proper beer, and it did not run out. We'll come back to that.
Well, okay.
Awesome atmosphere. Bonus, seeing Pat and Genji there too. So actually, I'll take a pause briefly because we went to the concourse, didn't we?
Which we normally do because we enjoy a bit of live music at
and we're not really sure what was going on. So actually, that's good intel from Claire, and maybe we'll wander over to the sports bar
next time,
which I've always quite liked, actually, the sports bar. I don't know why we got into the concourse thing.
I don't know.
It's just busy. There's lots of people there, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, moving on. We've had another one from Ian Manson, which is at MansonIO, and he obviously took this short summaries to heart because he said, "Hoops, away we go, whiz, oops, double yellow, running up that hill, summit and oops." Not quite sure if that was like a Kate Bush song or whatever, but I like it, Ian. I like the kind of the ambiguity of that. Made us think.
Nice.
We also had Paul Mizzen at Paul Mizzen1, and this was an interesting one. He said, "I can't remember any Jackal success in the game. Just brackets a couple of penalties or a successful counter ruck. Am I mistaken? And won't get into refereeing as that's how I got into rugby. My mates were referees. But a question, when teams started employing rugby league defence coaches, we were told tries would be at a premium. Why has that been so wrong?" So that's kind of an interesting thing. You wanted to say something about the Jackal?
Yeah, I think he's absolutely right. There were very few jackling opportunities, except annoyingly on the last literally on the last flipping play of the game,
where they got the jackal,
and ultimately won. But I don't remember.
No, I don't think there were.
I
think that was the only not releasing penalty. But
we can chat about that as in our players and their ability later on. Yeah, of course.
Okay, moving swiftly on. A long time interactor, but hasn't done a short summary for a while, is Alistair Stephen, at Alistair _Stephen. He says, "Stats say that we should have won and won well. So disappointing. But apart from a couple of brain farts, it was there. Connacht away, it was not. Pleased for Gloucester. They ain't the chaps down the road, and they've had a tough couple of years. Genge versus the youngster was fun." So as always, I mean, Alistair is always very kind of analytical in what he says, and he picked up on a couple of really good things there. And I think I'll come back to the stats when we talk about it, because I did have a look at them, particularly after he said it. Carry on. Oh, we've got one from a big fan of ours, and we're a big fan of her, is Music at Funky House R&B, also known as Debs from K-Town. And Debs said, "I swear if we got the 5 points at home versus Newcastle and the 2 points away against Gloucester, many would say we'd done okay after 2 games." I guess she's a very positive
She
fan.
is, and we'll chat about the table later on, and she's sort of right there,
Yeah, so cheers for that, Debs. And then there was a couple of quite short ones again, I mean, even shorter. Pablo the Bristol Bear. Last time we saw Pablo the Bristol Bear, we were on the coach back from Harlequins.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He was sat on the back seat. He said, "Great game, but as being discussed on Facebook, I can't see us ending above the bottom 3. Hope Lee is having a Gert Mint holiday." Good lad. Anthony Baxter, who did one last week, at Cycle Fan, he said, "Our discipline was very poor again. Did we get any turnovers? Gloss fans are a great bunch." So he obviously, met some nice ones. Apparently there are some. We had a couple of interesting fans near us, but let's not get into it. Let's not get personal. Jonathan Legg, at John Legg 20, his short summary was, "Deserved to lose." Very short. Okay. Another friend of the pod, Ryan Keishel, at Ryan Keishel, said, "Lack of discipline." Again, right to the point.
Yes.
I should also say at this point, we did have some Instagram comments as well, because I put the whole thing on Instagram, not expecting anything. Of course, we did have Southwest Dog Skills last week, and actually Southwest Dog Skills was back on it again.
Have they?
And he said, "We haven't really established." Well, actually, I did find out that he was a real person. He did contact me in the week, and he's actually he was on Facebook. So, but
it was from the Southwest. Is there a relationship to dogs?
I don't know, but I just did like the fact that we thought we had a dog as a follower.
We did.
But he said he barked. Gloss played like it was their Premiership final. Genge lost the battle, but I'm sure we'll win the war when we visit Kingsholm. Those 2 bonus points will matter come the end of the season, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Very, very, very opposite. We also had OJ Jukes, said Wade cashed in on some cheap tries. Bristol comeback was brilliant. Refereeing confusing at best. We'll be back better for it next time. And then our final Instagram was big friend of the pod, Briz Vader. And I knew what he was going to say because he's so positive about everything. He said, "Brilliant pre-match show. Absolutely loved it. More of that."
We'll chat about that.
With many exclamation marks.
Absolutely. Good
Breathless rugby, which was very entertaining. Yes, a loss, but upwards and onwards, or onwards and upwards. Most annoying thing, the visiting supporter sat right behind you, didn't stop talking the entire game. So annoying. So very annoying. No, mate, I really don't care what you're planning your weekend meals, to be honest. So, I mean, Bader's quite a relaxed bloke. So that must
have really annoyed him. Absolutely.
And then, of course, we can't finish this piece without some acrostics. We had
Let's go for
two new people and one regular. So the first one, and you've got to try and guess what it is.
Okay.
This was Steve Smith, who used to
ex-councillor Steve Smith.
Councillor Steve
Yeah, we
Smith.
know him well. We know him well.
Fantastic contributor to the pod. So here we go. I didn't even realise it was an acrostic until I actually read it about 5 times. So apologies, Steve, but here we go. Cracking atmosphere.
Yeah.
Running rugby from both sides.
Yeah.
Ashton Gate buzzing.
Yeah.
Passes not sticking enough. Rucks could have been stronger.
Yeah.
80-minute game. Final 10, a proper nail-biter.
Am I allowed to say this?
You can say it.
Crap ref.
Crap ref. Steve. I mean, now you're not a counsellor. I see. You can
be open up a bit. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So well done. I mean,
well done. Pointing. We'll talk about Tom Foley a little bit later on. We
had a contribution from Edward H. Never heard from him before, and his handle is at Have Cake Will Eat. And he started by saying, this might be an unpopular opinion, but poems in acrostic have no place after primary school. But then guess what he does?
He gave us an acrostic.
So here it goes. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Turning to the match.
Yeah.
Heavens above, we threw that away.
Yeah.
Easy points gifted to Gloucester.
Yeah.
Blistering comeback in second half.
Yeah.
Edge of our seats in the final 20.
Yeah.
And yet again, regretting errors. So devastating.
The Bears, obviously.
The Bears.
Yeah,
well done.
absolutely.
Cheers for that, Edward. And then, of course, finally, we got 2 more. Sorry, we got 2 more. I apologise for saying this was going to be a short funk feature. We were going to keep going. We had our regular across sticker, Hammy Hambley.
Well, and we've yet to meet Hammy yet. He's supposedly a season to go with us, so we'll try and hook up with him.
We will try.
At a game, of course.
And his one was, are you ready for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is a good one, actually. Really close to a win in the end.
Yeah.
Ibitoy was off to a great start. Fair play to Gloss. Losing at home is never easy.
I know what it's going to be.
You know it.
I know it already.
Ever consistent Max to the rescue.
Yeah.
Second game, still time for improvement.
Yeah.
Clumsy cards. Yeah. Discipline needed to be better. Under no pressure. Yeah. We made mistakes. Points, wins, prizes. At least we got 2.
Rifles Cup.
Brilliant. I love it. I mean, that's high level cross-sticking.
I think that is like first at Cambridge level across-sticking, isn't it?
It's definitely. I mean, it's almost postgraduate level. It's a doctorate in across-sticking that. And actually, it's contextual. I like.
Love it.
Fair play, Hammy. But I should have done this one last, actually. But we did have one more, and it was from Carwyn Jones, who's been in touch before, and his handle is at Cones Jarwin. And here we go. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is actually a really good one as well. Here we go. Similar issues to past 2 seasons.
Yes.
Too poor discipline and defence.
Yeah.
Restarts, also absolutely bobbins. 8th in the table, if not kicking, stroke Bears way continues. Spirited comeback. Some line for from Malins for the second try. Yes, attack is decent, but Matter and Grondona can't return soon enough. It's one word. Similar to restarts, 8th, spirited, some, yes. Stressy. Oh. Yeah, it's contextual. It was a stressful game.
Yeah.
That's too good for us.
Too good for us.
But anyway, as we say, we always appreciate these, and they're kind of fun, and I guess you quite like doing them, and we try and read out as many as we can. But also, I did put out a clarion call for a voice note, because I thought, because Lee's not here, we could do with some more voices.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we got one, and it is somebody that is a very long time listener and a very, very, has actually sent voice notes before.
Yeah, he's a very good friend of the pod. He's an out of the region.
He is. He's a Northampton based, and he has actually. We have
sent a spy in to the local region.
We have commissioned him for outside broadcast before. So this is from a good friend of the pod, Nick Howell, and this is what he had to say.
Hello, lads. Okay, thoughts on Friday night's game. A bit of deja vu, to be honest. We've seen plenty of games like that before, where we've gifted that win away. Fair play to Gloucester for taking the chances we gave them there. And I thought Foley was a bit inconsistent in the refereeing, I've got to be honest. Scrum was a bit of a worry. Seaver's yellow card was due. It's been a while since he's had one. But saying all that, I don't think we should get too wound up by the result. Some good signs there. The players are gelling well. I do think we are missing that mongrel 7, like Dan Thomas was. Who was actually man of the match for Cardiff this weekend against Scarlets. It hurts a bit so far, but it'll be worse against Bath back row, which is pretty decent, let's be honest, next week. Still early doors. What a better way to bounce back from a defeat than with a win away at Bath. So come on, Briss.
Okay, so brilliant, Nick. Thanks for that. Really apposite, and it was quite interesting the Dan Thomas ref, because I hadn't really had time to
man
look
of the
at
match. Home win at Scarlets, wasn't it?
So we had a lot of insight there from our listeners. I think covered a lot of the points. I mean, what we'll start with, Miles, and I mean, we went there. Obviously, it was our first home game. It was very exciting. We were looking forward to it. A Friday night game is always good. I mean, before we talk about the actual stuff on the pitch, I mean, what are your comments on the match day experience? Because there has been some talk about, upping this match night experience, adding a few more layers to it. What are your thoughts?
I thought, Friday night under the lights, it's the big occasion, it's the big sell, get the crowds in, the club certainly entertained that idea with some season ticket holders £20 mates rates giveaways, didn't they? Which was a great idea. I think we just wanted to fill seats on the day, but ultimately a crowd of 17,100 didn't really deliver, did it? So, I mean, initially I was a bit disappointed with the crowd size, Pete.
But for those of us that were there, I mean, what was new? What was it? I mean, we've got to be positive.
Let's have a really positive.
Yeah.
So, we were told to potentially get in our seats 10 minutes early, wouldn't they, for some sort of new introduction. Ultimately, we experienced that. So for fans who weren't there, we'll just give it a run through. There was fans with lights on their phones, holding it up, flashing, etc. There was a new integrity, a new sort of like buzz to the players coming out on the field. We're used to the flamethrowers, aren't we? The big gas flamethrowers, etc. However, can we just say that the Bristol players coming on to a bit of Metallica, can I just say, bloody genius. Enter Sandman. It might divide a few fans, but Pete and I absolutely loved it. I mean, if you're coming into a smashing Metallica song, absolutely buzzing, I thought it was a massive tick. So let's just commend the club for that sort of initial environment.
No, I think it was great. And what you failed to mention as well, which is brilliant, was also it was a kind of light show as well.
Yeah,
so there was
absolutely.
a lot of lights. There was the flashing of the heat. What do you call them? The fire things.
The gas fire.
We had the fans. I would say it was about a 50%. Fan with phones on thing, but I think we've got to get used to that. But it was, and it was a really, really good intro. I actually know if you've seen that thing on social media where they've done it in some college football game where they're all bouncing up and down and they play.
US college.
So
yes, I have.
It has been done before.
Yeah.
But I mean, why? It's
why
a
not?
good
Why
thing.
not?
And I got to say, you've got to say it worked because we scored within about a minute.
Absolutely.
And it got me thinking actually that maybe we should have done that. Every time we lose a try, we should then just do the old sort of thing to get the players, as the players are walking back to the kickoff, get the lights on again, get the flamethrowers going, so we get a bit of a boost on the restart. But anyway, that was something
I
else.
thought it was great. As we know, the club are trying to engage youth, aren't they, into their attendance. And I'm not suggesting 12 to...
Are you talking about Gen
Z?
By anyone?
And I'm not suggesting that 12 to 19-year-olds have a clue who Metallica are, but us older fans amongst us, I thought it was a great idea.
It was good. I think it was a really good start. It was a really good sort of setup for the game. And of course, as I said, it worked really well. But of course, from that moment onwards, from 7-0 up, it then became a little bit harem scarum. Obviously, we all know, anybody listening to this knows, that we didn't quite get over the line. We were at 41 all. We were 41 all, and we had a man to the advantage, and somehow we still didn't quite manage to win. But there was a lot of stuff that happened up to that point, although ironically it almost came down to just those last 2 minutes, which
it did.
As I said in the intro, I mean, the Premiership Rugby marketeers would have been, and TNT would have been absolutely loving it, and rightly so, because it was a fantastic product for rugby. And of course sometimes these games are based on mistakes as much as absolute quality play, and I think this was a classic case of, we saw a lot of tries, but a lot of it came from endeavour and intent, which is absolutely perfect, but a few mistakes as well, and unfortunately, a few from Bristol. I mean, what was your, after the game finished, and it had, we were kind of had this amazing comeback in the second half, and as I said, 10 minutes to go, 5 points behind, one man advantage. The odds and the gods would probably have said the momentum was with us.
We should have won it.
I mean, how did you feel at the end when we didn't win?
Yeah, and sorry fans, just got to excuse the heavy rain upon the canvas roof of where we're recording. I thought you're absolutely right, Pete. For the neutral fan, it was the only game on a Friday night. This was prime time TV and rugby at its best, wasn't it? What we want to see, well, we all want to see scoring rugby. However, all what we want to see as a Bristol fan is some sort of defence that goes along with that, which I think is not really optional in my opinion. I could not have been particularly cross about the way in which Bristol played. We scored 6 tries, I believe, did we, to Gloucester's 5? And why not? Great first Friday night under the lights, first home game of the season, and Bristol delivered the sort of Harem Globetrotter rugby that we enjoy. However, I don't think as Bristol fans we were quite expecting Gloucester to come and deliver that exact same style of rugby, and ultimately the parity slightly went in Gloucester's favour, and few penalties, few indecisions, and some excellent play from some of the Gloucester's players. I mean, we slightly came out short.
Yeah. No, I think you're really right. I make a couple of really good points there. The first thing is I think Gloucester played well.
Yeah, I agree.
I saw some sort of comments saying Gloucester aren't a very good side. I mean, I thought they were. Their endeavour was really good, and actually they executed pretty well, and quite a lot of their attacking lines were great. They had like people spinning around the back, peeling around the back, popping blind, and they just looked like a completely different side. So I think it's, personally, and it's only my opinion, I think the fact we stayed in the game and almost won it showed that, it was a good performance from us. But of course the big problem, and a lot of people have pointed this out already, is that should you be conceding 44 points at home, particularly since in the off-season there was quite a talk about we have to make Ashton Gate a fortress.
I agree.
Our home form was terrible last season, and of course to make it a fortress isn't just about the fans singing to Enter Sandman. It's about it's about being clinical, particularly in defence, because by definition, if you are a fortress, you aren't going to get your defences breached. I mean, it's a difficult one. I mentioned this because I wrote the Post article for tomorrow, and I mentioned the fact that defence is such a difficult thing, because obviously on one hand it is about having a structure, it's about having a plan, it's about sort of talking, but on the other hand it's about individual players making decisions and either getting tackles or missing tackles at key points. And I think what undid us on Friday was this: we just had one or two lapses of concentration, and ironically, when you look at the stats, the missed tackle stats, they missed 31 tackles, we missed 14. So we missed fewer tackles than them, but it's just where the tackles are.
But they were the crucial tackles at the right time of the game, weren't they?
And so I think if I was going to try and, what I'm trying to say is that it was one of those classic things of like thinking clearly under pressure or just being able to execute. And of course, Pat earlier on did allude to this, that, as we always say, but, we dropped the ball a few times. We gifted. The interception try was a 14-point swing. I mean, we're about to score.
6-on-1 overlap. We would have
gone to 21-17, and then we end up going 28-10. Fair play to Christian Wade for anticipating. But, at that level, And I mean, there was the other one, the Christian Wade try, where he kicked it through. It was a great kick. You've got to put yourself in it to win it. But, two of our players got in each other's way. Max missed it. The ball almost went into touch, bounced back. Christian Wade has then got can amble in under the sticks. It's just there was a couple of those things as well.
I agree.
These things happen, but I guess as somebody else pointed out, you've got to be in a situation where you control the narrative, not be servant to Lady Luck.
I think you're right, and ultimately, Pete, you're right. I think at one point we were 18 points down, were we? And what team? We were a brilliant nearly comeback. Let's just give it a big tick there. However, to go 18 points down, you're not going to win many games of the season, are you? And Bristol are brilliant. The comeback kings, aren't they? But they're also the nearly comeback kings. And as we found out, they didn't succeed in the end. So defence is not sexy. However, we have got to pin down bringing down the numbers of mistakes, the silly errors, and teams like Bristol, even not better than Bristol, are going to hit us a lot harder and turn us over. So Gloucester, you're right, were absolutely great, and they were playing the sort of rugby that we were playing last season. That is not the sort of Gloucester team and style I'd expected to come and play on Friday night. So hats off to them, but we need to tighten up on the little bits of defence that ultimately gave them some tries.
I mean, Alistair Stephen mentioned the stats earlier. I mean, just whipping through them. Possession was 56% to 42 for us. Territory 67 to 33. Points from the 22 was the same. Entries into the 22, 15 for us, 10 for them. Metres gained 462 for us, 384 for them. Clean breaks 12 to us, 11 to them. Carries 176 to us, 112. Defenders beaten 31. Defenders beaten by us, 13 by them. Offloads 17 to 10. Passes 167 to everything.
All the stats.
Everything.
Suggested
tackles
a
missed.
win.
But ironically, we missed 14. They missed 31.
Really.
Tackle success. We had 89%. They had 83 success rate. I could go on. And lineouts and scrums. We won 100% of our lineouts. We won 83% of our scrums. They only won 67% of theirs. And there was a narrative after the game that they
dominated, wasn't there? Yeah.
And then,
you're right.
rucks won. We won 93 rucks. They won 68, and ours was 97%, although they were 100%. Yeah. But of course, the irony of it all, and also I should say that penalties conceded, we had 10, they had 14. But of course, the irony of it all was that turnovers conceded, we conceded 17, they only conceded 10. And of course, in those stats are those moments where the one missed tackle out of our small number of missed tackles led to points,
to a try.
The interception and so on.
And a turnover led to the ultimate penalty that won the match.
The only jackal of the game led to the winning of the game. So, I mean, stats are great, everyone, but this is where we have to. So the question, of course, is how do we stop that happening? I just think it's one of those things. On another day, we would have won that game comfortably. I think we would have won that. You could argue, we would have won that with maybe 10, 15 points to spare. And I think in a parallel universe, that's what it is. So whilst on one hand, I'm frustrated, like we all are, to kind of see those kind of mistakes get punished. And I think there is an argument to say that at times we did start to push it a little bit too much. We panicked a little bit. We didn't ironically trust the process, which we should have done. But we were kind of unlucky. And I don't know. I'd like to think that that's that won't happen as often as we
hope so.
It does.
I think you're right, Pete. I mean, let's assume that we're not going to have 2 yellow cards within 2 minutes of each other,
But the irony of that was we were a net -4 on that, because I went back and looked at it.
Yeah.
2 cards together with 13 men. They scored immediately, a converted try, and then we got a penalty. And then when Harry came back in, so that was a bit of a false narrative. We didn't really suffer from the yellows. We suffered from the interception and the kind of missed tackle. I mean, Wade, in a way, someone mentioned it, was gifted his tries. I mean, the first try that he scored on the wing, There was a missed tackle on Llewellyn, and then I think Big Steve and Max Malins went for the same player, got in each other's way, and they popped it to...
Yeah, I agree, but
he
has got gas.
He's got gas.
He literally, accelerated, hugely and got that. And so that was a really good try. The interception, as we've described, is an annoying... It was a 6-on-1 overlap. Come on, that should have been a try to our advantage, and he just... picks it off. He's a quality operator.
You say 6.
Some
I think
people
it was
say
about 4.
I
think at the time I thought it was 15.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then there was lots, like we were. It was quite funny when you watch games live and then you watch them back again.
Yeah.
You do sometimes regret some of the things you shout out. So I was like shouting, "Ref got in the way! Way to miles offside!" I went and closed it. The ref, fair play to Foley. He was it, but he had literally hit the deck, so you couldn't blame. Harry did a miss pass over the top of the ref to Malins.
Yeah.
So you couldn't blame the ref. And then it was just good anticipation from Wade. When Harry had the ball, he was miles onside. So I felt like, it's typical. We always shout these things, don't we? And actually, anyway. So we kind of agreed that, well, I've said it and you kind of agreed and disagreed, but on another day, I think we have to accept that the doom and gloom has a certain place. But on another day, that was just what we would have won that comfortably.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I just thought, let's pick up on a couple of performances. A few things that I picked up on. I thought Max, he's class. We know he's class. But him and McGinty, there was some sort of development. There is a relationship between them where they kind of interchange a little bit. But he missed a couple of tackles, and he knows that. We're not going to dwell on it.
Yeah.
But it's just it wasn't, and he dropped a couple. He dropped one high ball. It's just one of those things. If you're in the game, it's a risk. We just need to. But I think we get payback for the odd mistake from Malins. 2 great lines for his tries and so on. So that was pretty good. And McGinty played well again. So that was one thing. But let's have a think about the other. So that was my starter. Any players you want to mention, Miles?
Yeah, we'd like to actually. I thought there was a change in the sort of front row starting lineup. I think we both agreed that young George Gloucester had a very, very good game. I didn't see him make any errors, and I thought that was really encouraging. He came in place of Maxwell Heath. He came on as a substitute. So that is really promising, actually.
I'm really excited about Gloucester. There was that talk about him starting as a hooker, being made to a tight head. I just, to coin a phrase we haven't used for a while, I really, really like the cut of that lad's jib. And I think he's not just an ox when he's a big boy, but he's got some handling skills. There was a couple of breaks he made. He offloaded off the floor. I just think, fingers crossed, he stays injury free. But I'm really looking forward to tracking his development this
Absolutely,
season.
he was great. I just Captain Fantastic or ex-Captain Fantastic, Big Steve Livertour, he was all over the park, and I think generally, I thought in the scrum he was phenomenal actually. This big sort of like stockings, injury-clad ligaments. He had an absolutely great game. I thought big tick to Steve Livertour. I thought he had a quiet game, and this is probably down to injuries and international duty. It was our mate Jake Heenan, who we love. He's a great stalwart, but he was a little bit quiet.
I think to be fair to Jake, he is an absolute servant for the team, and he's a pat go-to man. I would have thought he may disagree. We probably wouldn't have expected him to be starting the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think when Santi Grondona comes back from Argentina, because he started yesterday, I would imagine he'll get in, give or take any niggles he's got, and Jake will kind of play his role, which is this kind of go-to man to get in there. But at the end of the day, the guy puts his body on the line. And that's the one argument you could say for Friday, is that our back row were fairly similar. We didn't clearly have a jackler, but then maybe we were playing the offloading game, so maybe that's part of the strategy. We weren't really worrying about but of course the back row are the ones that've got to get into that breakdown quickly. And
I agree, Pete. There are a few comments though that I think I agree. I've watched the highlights and extended highlights. We were quite slow to the breakdown again. We didn't get any jackling opportunities, and Gloucester had a few. And our great Jackler, he's moved on to Cardiff and got man of the match over the weekend.
Actually, just to make that point, because I'm thinking of it when you say it, I think I'll break down. We got there, but at that level, I just had a feeling during the game that their ruck speed was just a bit quicker, and I think that also had something to do with Thomas Williams, because I thought he had a really good game, and he dictated from the back of the ruck so well. He mixed his game up. He's really quick service, and I actually thought Harry, who had a good game as well, he made some great breaks, but I reckon Harry will look back at the tape and actually will look at that on purpose to watch what Thomas Williams did. I think he'd learn a little bit from Thomas.
Nothing against Harry and AJ's ability, who are great together, but you're right, but the half-back partnership of Thomas Williams and Gareth Anscombe was on fire on Friday night.
Just goes to show
that little connection and knock through for the Anscombe try. I mean, they brought in some international Welsh contingent, and it's based on Friday night. It's paying off.
I just thought Thomas Williams mixed it up perfectly.
He did.
When he did box kick, they were absolutely pinpoint, and they had a purpose. And as I said, his delivery out of the base of the ruck was really quick. His service was great, and that beautiful little outside of the boot, little chip over Anscombe was just class.
It was.
He was a 10 out of 10, and Harry was a kind of 8, 9 out of 10, and it can make a difference.
And as we know, chatting about the back line, is that we have got that sort of big ball carrying ability. It's just a shame it's currently injury laden, isn't it? And is away playing international with Argentina, so it will change. The back line will mix up, and Fitz, etc., will move around. We might have Grondona back in and Mata back in, but at the moment it's a changing feast, isn't it? And there's something that's slightly wanting on Friday night.
Actually, on the subject of back rowers, the one thing I wanted to mention, which I'm sure a few listeners saw, was right at the death, Benjamin Grondona had come on for Josh Caulfield.
Saw that.
And when we gave away that or conceded that penalty, he got right stuck in, and it was like, and actually now I'm thinking about it, maybe it was all part of the strategy that if they had swung at him, we might have got a penalty reversal and then scored 3 points. But then someone did put something on forum that when we played one of the pre-season games or something like that, he basically the comment was that guy could start a fight, in an empty room. So
it's Argentinian spirit.
So I love it, but it could have played out for us. So maybe he's keen. I mean, he's hungry. He wants to get in the back row. So we'll see.
Great.
I mean, just the last thing I think in terms of performances. I mean, it was kind of highlighted inevitably by the social media, was the battle that our boy Ellis had with the young pretender, the big unit that came on. And I forget his name, and I should have done my research. But the guy that was the under-20s tight head for England. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
It was an interesting battle, wasn't it? And I hate to say, I think I put on our little socials today that really I felt like the youngster won the battle today. He got in Ellis's mindset, the experienced lock, England lock. He's a unit. And he was waving Ellis off when he got substituted off. Whether it's the dark arts of the front row rugby skills, isn't it, that we don't understand. We're backs at school, weren't we? It's a different ball game. But he's got a young head on him, and flipping heck, has he got potential?
I think the irony was that he got into, it wasn't so much the contact that he beat Ellis on, it was the fact that he kind of goaded him into pushing early or kind of going too long. And then the irony was when Ellis went off, Jake Warmer came on and absolutely marmalised him in the first scrum. And he went sideways and backwards and upside down. So I still think the lad's got a lot to learn. And it was a good narrative. I don't think it was quite as big a thing as it was made out. I think our scrum was pretty good. Ellis looked a bit bemused about a couple of the decisions from Foley. I don't even want to go down.
Don't go me down.
But I don't.
General
I
reffing
don't know.
of the night.
I actually look when I looked over it. I didn't think the reffing was that bad. I thought he was pretty fair. And as I said, he gave them 17. They had 17 penalties.
Yeah,
we had
that's
10.
true.
So,
we had 10.
So anyway, that's it. I don't think there's much else to say apart from we also do like to talk to opposition fans. And unfortunately, this week we haven't managed to talk to a Bath fan. in advance of the game. But what we did find out earlier on is that our mate Lewis, who is the assistant manager at the Bristol Bear Factory, who kindly hosts us on these Sunday nights, turns out he's a massive Gloucester fan, and he went to the game with his dad on Friday, and as a result of that, I thought, well, let's ask him what he knows, and it actually turned into giving us a little bit more intel about some of the players for Gloucester that we saw. So I thought, to finish off this little segment, let's have a listen to what Lewis had to say. So we're very lucky to be joined by Lewis, who is actually the assistant manager of the Bristol Bear Factory tap room. And not only is he the guy that kind of looks after us every Sunday, but it actually happens that he is also a Gloucester fan. And Lewis was at the game on Friday, so we thought we'd try and grab him for a little soundbite. But before we do ask about the game, Lewis, I understand that you know a couple of the players that were playing.
Yeah, so I went to Dean Close in Cheltenham from 2014 to 2019. And there I was in the same year as George Barton. Year below me with Freddie Thomas. 3 years above me with Tom Seabrook. I don't know if you remember, he went from Gloucester to... Where did he go? I think he went from Gloucester somewhere else, and now he's at Saints now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, a couple of those names, well, the guys that were playing on Friday, I mean, Freddie Thomas, George Barton, I mean, you know, they had good games on Friday, and I believe that you had a night off work and went down with your old man to watch the game.
I booked it off about a month ago, and I thought, you know, if I'm going to go to one game, I'm going to go to this one. It was brilliant. It was nice to have a night off, and really enjoy it.
I heard you were in the Lansdowne. I mean, that's a bit different from the Shed, isn't it? You know.
It's nice to have a seat. But
did your old man get your tickets? That's a pretty pricey seat.
Well, no. I actually managed to swindle a couple of tickets. I probably shouldn't be saying this.
No. Don't worry. There's not many perks to many jobs, so we don't begrudge you that, mate. Yeah.
You know, I thought free beer and I can see if I can wank. I flashed the Bristol Beer Factory card and hope no one would pull me up on it.
There's nothing wrong with ligging. There's nothing wrong with it
at
all.
Exactly.
So anyway, I mean, based on the fact I assume you can remember at least some of that game, I mean, what were your thoughts on the night as a whole?
Past 9 o'clock it gets a bit hazy, but up from 7:45 onwards, I was pretty much there. No, it was brilliant. I mean, the last time I was at Ashton Gate as a fan, watching Gloucester was 2 years ago now. I went with my dad again, and we're in the Dolmen, and I remember it came down to the last minute, and then you beat us by a point. And it was, it's a very quiet drive home in the car. But that was our last memory, and we just thought, when the team sheets came out earlier in the week, we were kind of looking at them and we just thought, oh God, this is, here we go again. Yeah. And we thought it was going to be a bit of a wipeout, especially when, I was late getting into the stand. I went to the bog quickly, and I came out, and we were 7 points down. I thought, well, here we go again. I thought I'm going to go back to the bar, but no, it was an incredible game, and it's great to see kind of generational kind of talent coming through, and looking at kind of the battle between Genge and our young boy Afo, who's 19. We saw him come out, and we're like, he's got to be one of the biggest boys on the pitch easily.
He's eating his greens, doesn't he? Up to the age of 19,
So no, it was brilliant to see, and I think it was just such a kind of. I haven't seen Gloucester play that sort of flowing rugby in years. I don't think.
Annoyingly, nor have we, Well,
it was really good to see a lot of the young boys as well just be filled with so much confidence that if you go back last season, where kind of we'd send out an A-team-esque kind of lineup, and we were getting, these boys were getting beaten 80, 70, 80. I don't know if you remember last season.
Yeah, you got beaten 80, didn't you?
And if you look at what that does to their confidence, it's going to knock them massively. So this is, I think for a particularly young squad, especially when so many first team players have been rotated around. I mean, Ludlow getting dropped by Skivington is a massive, show from him to be like, well, if you're I know you're the captain, but if you're not good enough, you won't play. And I think decisions like that, give these boys the hope that I'm not just going to be stuck in 18 rotation, not getting any minutes. If I play well enough, I'm going to be starting.
So what do you? I mean, based on that performance and the result, obviously, which gives confidence. I mean, what do you think is going to? I mean, what do you think will happen to Gloucester this season? Because the pundits generally have not suggested they're going to do much better than last season. But is that giving you confidence for the?
Massively. I think so. I think going into the next games. I think it's exciting to see that the squad is ever changing, and it looks like it's going to change every week. It's going to be on a week by week basis that Skivington will look and say, well, listen, he's played well this week, he hasn't, and he's not going to be afraid to make a decision. I don't think this season that he can just swap out these players who have got X caps for England, or these players who have been in the starting lineup for the last 4 or 5 years, and he's going to give some of these young boys a chance. And I think it's really refreshing to see. And who knows what can happen this season? So I think I don't know what way it's going to go. I'm definitely not going to get my hopes up straight away. But at the end of the day, I think it's really positive, and a lot of these young boys can take a lot of confidence in that.
Well, brilliant. I really appreciate your time. We better let you get back to work.
Thank you.
But thanks for talking to us, and
Might chat to you again before the away leg when we go up to Gloucester.
I think we definitely will.
Definitely.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Lewis. Cheers, buddy.
So there you go, Miles. I mean, he went to school with half the team.
Absolutely, what lad! Absolutely loved it, and this is what we found out this evening, wasn't it?
Yeah. So fair play to him.
Not only is the assistant manager fine a beer establishment that hosts us, he's actually a really nice Gloucester fan.
Yeah.
He went to school with a lot of these lads, and so we'll tap him up on the away leg, shall we?
So
and get him along.
Well, we do appreciate the time he gave us.
Absolutely.
And, it's good to know. So anyway, let's move on, because we've got games are coming, and of course next week we have got the first renewal of the Derby Day of those down the road. It's the away game. This fixture last year we got pretty close. It was just down to a very Callum Sheedy penalty that didn't quite go over. It was that Friday night. I went down with the Love Island influencer. If you realise, I got
it's got you far in life, hasn't it, mate?
10 seconds, but I got a free ticket, and that was when I managed to get a couple of you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate from Sam Warburton and Topsy Ojo. So it was a special night. But it was I remember that game last year. First half, it looked like it was going to be a cricket score. Ollie Lawrence side force, and we missed that. Piers O'Connor didn't deliver Rich Lane. It was looking one of those games where you were texting me during the game going, that looks like a shambles, and I was like, this could be bad. But massive credit, we got back into that game and pretty much took them to the wire. And I think again, either way, it could have gone either way. And of course, the second half of the season, we hammered them at the gate. Obviously, Bath, started the season well. They're a lot of pundits' favourites to win the Prem this early on. They have got some really good players all over the park. They've got Ollie Lawrence, they've got Ben Spencer, they've got Will Muir.
And Finn Russell, of course.
They got de Glanville, they've got Dunn, they've got Barbary, but of course they do have the self-styled maverick fly half of World Rugby, Finn Russell, on his reported £1 million a year. But in some ways, I think that's, like last time, I think that's where we've got a chance.
Well, to get in, to get under his skin.
Yeah.
Which is what we did last year, wasn't it? And that classic last year when he, hoofed it. Was it Laney or William?
Yeah, that was the one at the wreck when he tried to chip out the 22.
No, it was here down Ashton Gate.
Yeah, Ashton Gate. Sorry,
really, when he chipped out the 22, and that was literally the best try of the season.
The thing is. With Finn Russell, he's a great player. He's great for rugby, but he is a bit of a maverick. He is going to try risky stuff, and if you can be ready for that risky stuff, a bit like Christian Wade was ready for the risky pass, I feel that, and if you can get a few of those, I feel That's one element of where we've got. I mean, I don't know if you watched the game this afternoon.
I watched the last 5 minutes where that was it. Well, they were already 4 tries to 3
it was Bath for
up.
good value for their win. But Finn Russell made a few massive mistakes in that game. He did one where he did the classic where he missed touch from his 22, didn't really bother running. Of course, the new law is that to play forwards onside, he has to then run in front of them. He kind of ambled for them. Jack Van Poortvliet got the ball, realised that Russell was doing nothing, and basically ran through the whole forward pack into space, and then made ground, and then went and scored. So it was a real mistake from Finn Russell. And then later on, he missed a couple of kicks, and then when Bath had a penalty at the end to take them 10 points ahead, he gave the kicking duties to Ben Spencer. And I thought, if I was a Bath fan, £1 million a year, and he doesn't fancy the last kick.
It certainly wasn't the scoreline this afternoon I was expecting away at Leicester.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I mean, I think Bath were the better team. Leicester, I mean, Ollie Hustle-Collins dropped one over the line, to be fair, in the first half. It was pretty shocking.
Saw that.
But they look good, but they are beatable. We know
we know they are. I mean, I think that shock massive, 5 tries to 1 against Saints in the first game of the season. I suspect we've been led to believe that this is a really good Bath side. There's not too many different characters or players in the side. So if we can tighten up those mistakes from this week, we are at the Wreck, which, as we know, is
a Saturday afternoon.
So next Saturday afternoon.
We don't know what the weather's.
There won't be any fans there because it's overpriced. So anything could happen.
I think rather than. I mean, I think we always have to be positive. I think we'll go and play rugby. I think if we can. I think I'm slightly concerned about the breakdown because they've got Alfie Barbary. They've got some pretty good. They had this young lad, Guy Pepper,
wasn't it? Yeah.
And he was playing in place of Miles Reed, who was also good. So I think we've really got to target. He was injured, I think, or he was. We've got to make sure that we're absolutely on it. The breakdown.
You're right,
But I think we've got the weapons to do something with, and we know that if you get under someone's skin and you get some momentum, who knows? But it goes without saying, we're going to have to be much more clinical than we were on Friday. Rather than go through what we think the team's going to be, can you think are any obvious or possible changes that we might see to our starting 15?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, there was nothing. That Friday night line-up, we know that it's an odd one. Is it Thacker came down with a last-minute illness at Newcastle? I mean, he was, I don't know, it is bedridden for a week. But, O'Gray has stepped up. Yeah. I mean,
so we say O'Gray will start.
Yeah,
Front
I think
row,
so.
Can we see any changes from the start?
Not particularly. I mean, we've bigged up Gloucester, haven't we? Yeah. O'Gray and Genji, really nothing there. The second row locks
pick themselves
really at the moment because of injuries and international duty.
Back row, I would say the only issue in the back row is they might put Jake might drop down to the bench. We might get a Grondona in there. Because the young one, might come in, or although I'm not sure Pat would trust him right from the start, but Santi Grondona may be back for the Rugby Championship.
That's a bit of a tall order to come back from Argentina 1 week and then into the fold next.
No, they were in South Africa.
South Africa, same time zone.
So, what's the difference between playing a game and then playing it? And Albert Tuisui came in straight for them.
Yeah, you're right.
So
we're playing his wage, and have we yet to see him start?
So, and he should be match fit because he started for. So, I mean, I think probably he'll be on the bench, but I think that we've got to see him, and then we'll take from there. Half-backs pick themselves. Jimmy and Van Rens, Bernard pick themselves. Ibitoya picks himself. Malins picks himself. So the big issue is what we're going to do on the wing because we think Seaver's going to be out.
We think Seaver's going to be out. Yeah. There was a comment on the Bristol Bears supporters fans forum that he took a massive knock against what player did you say?
Well, it was in the second half when it was Freddie Thomas and he came in for a tackle, but Seaver dipped low.
Yeah.
He kind of stumbled. Freddie Thomas was going low for the tackle. Seaver then stumbled lower. And it was a head-on-head. But the TMO didn't ever look at it. And I genuinely don't think it was anything more than a rugby instance. But Seaver got taken off.
But Seaver got taken off. There's been some comment. He potentially has suffered some facial injury or trauma. So who knows? We might find this out on Wednesday. But potentially the last time someone faced some facial trauma, it was Johan Lloyd, wasn't it? A couple of years ago, he had a bash to the cheek.
Yeah.
Who knows? So
I mean,
we're going to cross our fingers, but the worst case scenario that Seaver's got some facial injury that could keep him out.
So if he is out
for 6+ weeks, I don't know. We don't know this as fans. We'll find out. But then that is a worry. But then,
I mean, obviously, Rich Lane would probably come in.
Yeah, then we'd have to sub someone in on the bench, wouldn't we? And we know Paul Noah Heward's had some hamstring surgery. You know, Diego Bailey's fit, so someone's going to have to step in.
Jack Bates, I would say we'll see a Jack Bates or a Diego Bailey on the bench, and Rich Lane
we'll find out in the media, on this Wednesday, won't we? But but you're right, there could be a change in the winging structure.
Yeah. Okay, no. Well, I think that's Bath done. We'll look forward to. I mean, definitely going to be a game to watch. I did have a little look on the on their ticket site for standing in the terrace.
What? How much it would cost?
Yeah, 80 quid to stand. 99 quid to sit where you're not even in the stand that's got the seats that
so that's not going to be full, is it?
The seats that were under the hospitality, which at least you're dry, but you're kind of like you can't see anything. 99 quid, and then the big open stand was 69 quid for it was the only seats they had available right in the corner. I'm sure there'll be some Bristol fans there. I hope they are. Make some noise, and of course the other thing I should mention is if you are there, Dave Atwood will have his apéro bar at the Rec, like he did, on Friday.
On Friday night.
Me and Dave had a business meeting after the game. I saw Dave. I kind of ambled over with my pint. We had a quick business meeting, and it has been agreed between Mr. David Atwood, the proprietor of the apéro bar, that if you go up to the apéro bar at the Rec on Saturday or at Saracens at home in the next home game, and you tell them that you are a Bears Beyond the Gate listener, you will get a 10% discount on your drinks.
Good lad.
But unfortunately, there is one little sting in the tail.
Oh,
Dave said he insisted that you also have to say that I like dry robes as well. So I know that
that's a big ask.
You've got to weigh up the 10% discount against having to say I like dry robes. So anyway, it's out there. Dave has agreed this. It's an honourable. There's no contracts being drawn out with this. He's
verbal contract.
He's written it on Instagram for me, so it's been agreed. So it would be great. Not so much the Rec, because I'm not sure many Bristol fans will be there. But if you are there and you're listening, go and see him round the back. But Saracens in a few weeks' time. He was there on Friday. I think they were right next to the stage, so it was a difficult position. I think.
Might be to move his location.
But at the end of the day, if you are a Bears Beyond the Gate listener, you will get discount. And let's leave it at that.
Yeah, and he's a great friend of the pod.
He is becoming a great friend of the pod. Really good friend, and we do we joke, but we do appreciate the kind of bants that we're having with Dave. And but this is a burgeoning commercial relationship going here. And of course, we love the Bristol Bear Factory. We have to say that they are our kind of they're our first and biggest love. But there's room for other people in our lives.
I agree.
From an alcoholic point of view. Right, look, we've got to crack on, Miles. We've got one last feature to do. We want to do some AOB. We're just going to mention these really quick. Genji's new contract, 4 years. Great, good story. Really good on social media. The kind of hometown guy. I thought it was brilliant. I loved it.
I mean, I loved it. The fact that the local sort of comedian and presenter Joe Sims interviewed him in a park in Knowles. Loved it. And I was saying to the Duchess at the weekend, an absolute local lad who admitted he could go off to France for big contracts, but that's not the be all and end all. He's a proper Bristol lad. He's in a club he absolutely loves and dedicates, and why would you want loads and loads of money when you've got this foundation he runs in Bristol, a club he loves and the fans he loves? So a massive doff of the cap to Ellis Genge.
And the wider context is, I think rugby needs more of these stories. This is just a Bristol story. This is a great story about how rugby has changed a bloke's life. He has made him a great player. He's an international, but he's a grounded guy. And he was talking about that there are good people doing good things. And, if you're inspiring a community through rugby, it's right there. I mean, my only caveat to that caveat, ding, was the fact that actually some players, it wouldn't be quite as an interesting story, like showing you around Millfield playing fields, where I went to school or whatever. But let's not, let's be honest. It was great. Great to see Genji here. I said 4 years. I think we never know the contract length, but somewhere someone had said something about 4 years as if he'd let it slip. So even he might have
say
done.
That in an interview?
Yeah, that he's like, I'll be here for 4 years.
I think he did in that interview.
At the very least, he's going to be here to the end of Pat's tenure, and then
exactly.
Who knows? Maybe Genji will retire and take over. We don't know.
Maybe.
So that was that. Another quick one to finish was we were at the game with Tony, of course. Tony still lives on.
The ex-anchor man.
Yeah, and actually Tony went down to get us a beer, and he came back and he said, "Can you do us a massive favour and give a shout out to a guy called Jules, who was queuing in the beer queue with Tony, and even though Tony hasn't done the pod for a year, Jules still recognised him and said, great stuff, really love it." So big shout out to Jules. I think Tony was quite chuffed.
Massive.
Quite chuffed,
absolutely.
Actually.
But Lee was away. Our daughters were sat with their mates, so TC came and sat with us on Friday night. It was great.
Exactly. But that takes us to our final feature, and we haven't done this for a while, but it was the first home game of the season. And of course, whenever there's a sort of game at Ashton Gate, there's always something that
goes wrong.
We've probably done most of it, but we thought, let's start again. So, first goat, Miles. This was really not really spotted by me or you, actually, but by a lot of listeners on the forums, was the 10th anniversary name wall. So this thing that if you renewed your season ticket this season, they were going to put your name on a kind of display on a wall somewhere, the way it was sold, it was kind of like you'd have a brick with your name on. It'd be very clear that you're there, and it might have something like legend underneath. I'd completely forgotten about it, I've got to be honest, but
as had I. So we were walking from our resident seats in the Dolman stand under the Lansdowne for sort of post-match entertainment, and I saw a couple of fans looking up at some void blue space, and I thought, what the heck is that? And I'd completely forgotten. Anyway, subsequently we'd had intel on the fans forum that the commemorative wall had every single season ticket holder's name on it. This wall supposedly was 10 meters high. The print font was
It was like 8
millimeter gill sound. So let's just say. I
was going to say it was probably Comic Sans as well.
Like and had you maybe the execute. So let's just say the promise was great. The execution was substandard. You may have thought perhaps we should put this in alphabetical order. However, it was supposedly completely
and provided a stepladder.
Completely jumbled, and no fan could find their name whatsoever. So as we've said, the thought was there, the delivery was under the floor.
Personally, I'm not that bothered, but it's just another classic kind of a bit of an own goal,
exactly.
a bit of an overselling and under delivering situation.
Exactly,
which at the end of the day is a first world problem, but it's still annoying. On that note, though, something slightly more annoying was, of course, Thatcher's promoted this idea that there would be a free pint to season card holders between 6:30 and 7.
That sounds great. We weren't there, but how did that go?
And of course, you know how many season card holders there are because you've sold them, although they haven't told us.
And
therefore, you would have thought that you would have forecast and planned for a certain amount of Thatchers to be available.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, what happened at 6:45, Miles?
Hang on, they either ran out or they cocked up the times.
Well, they just stopped serving free ones, apparently.
You're joking.
We were outside the ground, but according to trusted sources, 6:45 they started saying.
So,
it's
can I just
now.
put this to you? If you run a pub as a publican and you advertise happy hour, how long would you serve happy hour beer for,
it's usually
mate?
An hour, isn't it? Happy hour. But
would
half an hour.
Would you turn it off at an hour and 5 minutes before?
I mean, you wouldn't, because what you'd be doing there is turning happy hour into unhappy hour. Well, it wasn't even happy hour; it was happy half an hour turned into unhappy 15 minutes.
Okay, mate. So again, promising one thing and delivering another.
Again, it's like,
oh dear,
it's like making a mistake on the pitch. Just one mistake, one knock on, it's fine. But then there's like one, and then there's another one, and then there's another one. It all kind of
comes together. Right. Did anything else get any better on the night?
Turnstiles.
Oh, come on. Okay, so we we don't get to our seats super early, do we? However, there was something wrong, we feel, with the entry turnstile system.
It took us 10 minutes to get through.
More than that, mate.
More than that,
I cheekily bypassed a couple of fans to get in. Something wrong with the NFC system on your phone. It didn't automatically open the turnstile.
You had to go to QR
and you
code.
had to then open it with the help of the stewarding staff to open your QR code. And subsequently, I suspect thousands of players missed the beginning of the match. Thousands of fans, sorry. So, the problem there being is that this reflects on Bristol Rugby. It may be an Ashton problem, but sort your shit out. Yeah. Get the turnstiles. Sorry, this is a family show, but that is unacceptable. Yep. Sort it out. Get your fans in.
I mean, I suppose this is a case of learnings. I mean, I didn't bother opening up the QR code on my. I just put the phone down.
You wouldn't need to, would you?
You just assume that's the whole point. Is you put your phone on the top. It seemed to work last year. Next year, I'll have my QR code open. But even so, that was a bit of a. I don't know what went wrong there. Okay, that's 3.
Right. Okay. Anything else went wrong? Okay.
Something that we have talked about a lot.
Yes.
And especially relevant to Friday night games is people that come in on the mates rates. Probably not regular fans. Like to get a beer. Game's already started. Hobbling up the thing.
So you might want to fast track
beer
queue.
No. Hobbling up the aisle.
Yeah.
Realise that they got to the wrong end of the row, and their seats are like the other end because they've missed. They just don't. And it's this whole issue of people coming to the wrong end of the aisle because there's no seat numbering.
No, you're right.
And there was some guy on the Facebook said he's willing to go down with a paintbrush and paint like say entrance to 30-31. Like it's seat 1
to 15
that way, and if you go in at 31,
the other end,
it's like it's not difficult. But
how many years have we said this?
And how many times do people still keep getting it wrong?
Yeah, but it's not their fault.
And the thing
it's not their fault.
And no offence to the people that run the show, but you don't have to get up and sit down a million times for these people in the game because you're probably in a hospitality box. It is actually such a simple thing
I'm
to
sure. Are we the only stadium that cannot sort themselves out?
Again, it's not a Bristol Rugby. I don't blame Bristol Bears for this.
It's Ashton Gate.
Come on, Ashton Gate. It's not. Come on, just some stencils, just to help people out on a Friday night. Anyway,
right. Okay, that's brilliant.
But you were thinking of something else.
I was thinking of something else.
So what do you tell me?
We have commented on previous big games that the problem is that beer queues are pretty unacceptable. You know that rugby fans are big drinkers. You know the numbers are going to come in. And we've said, other venues have got people going around with quick self-pourers. So lo and behold, under the Dolman on Friday night, as I was going to the loos at half time, I spotted machines with self-pourers, and admittedly they're Heineken, they're Thatchers, and they're Guinness, which are quick self-pouring beers, aren't they? However, could anything go wrong with that venture and idea that you have automated sort of machines? Apparently so, according to fans. The issue being that the queues to get to the standard bars block, or the queues to these self-pouring machines block the entire concourse under the Dolman, hence leading to certain chaos or more chaos than we normally expect in getting to our seat, and then basically everything is ground to it. It's like you could imagine, that crossing in Japan is the busiest crossing, pedestrian crossing in the entire world. Apparently this happened under the Dolman on Friday night. So, planning 10 out of 10, execution 2 out of 10.
It's work in progress, but I mean, I think it was, it's one of those things. Great intent and
under-delivered slightly.
We'll keep working, and we'll hopefully
they'll sort it out.
And of course, we'll be very pleased to report on
if there's any improvements. We love reporting on positivity about Ashton Gate, and when it materialises, we'll bring on the podcast.
Good news for them that it's 2 away games the next 2, so we're not going to be back there for a while.
You're right.
Anyway, on that note, I think we should finish. We've been rambling on too long. Thanks very much, Miles. We've done all right without.
We've
Lee.
done all right. I mean, hopefully, we don't
he'll be
know.
back.
Hopefully, Lee won't be on another holiday in Turkey next time as a podcast.
I have it on good authority. He'll be back
Good lad.
next
lad.
week, where we'll be reviewing the Bath game and looking forward to Exeter Chiefs.
Absolutely.
So on that notice, have a good week, keep safe, and come on the Bears.